This time I bring you a 1999 Opel Vectra that has been sitting for some time, but overall after being abandoned it is in quite good condition, and with a little care and a few hours, it can be made quite decent. As you can see, the car looks like a storage room, but overall the interior is in quite good condition and nothing is broken. Before taking it to the workshop I wanted to check the tire pressure to see if any were flat, but no, they just needed a bit of pressure, and with the portable compressor I was able to inflate all the tires to the correct pressure. The engine of this Vectra is the 1600 gasoline engine, and I also wanted to check if it would start, so I connected the starter to do a quick test since the car's battery was dead. And although it was a bit difficult to start it at first, which is normal after being stationary for so long, after a couple of attempts, it started without any problem. Since we have confirmed that the car has no serious issues and is worth updating, we take it to the workshop to start working on it. The first thing we are going to do is start with the interior, which is the most labor-intensive part, and we will begin by emptying all the items from inside the car. As you can see, it is full of bags of clothes and towels, which is something normal to keep in the car, but it was probably meant to be thrown away and ended up here, and here it stayed. Most of the things were really faded from being in the sun inside the car, so they have probably been here since it was parked. The trunk was also full of things, but nothing of value. There were bottles, jugs of water and oil, a jacket, and cans of powdered milk. In short, everything needed for a trip. Now that we have removed all the things that bothered us the most, we are going to start dismantling the seats of the car. For the front seats, we need to remove the seat belt, which is attached to the seat with a screw, and then we will have to take out 2 screws that hold the rear part of the guide. And by removing these 2 screws, we will be able to unclip the front seat and it will be loose. Then we just need to disconnect the seat belt pretensioner connector. Now that everything is removed, we can take out the seat, and we have to do the same process with the passenger seat. For the rear seats, it's very easy. The bottom part also has some pins that act as hinges. We just need to remove the small circlip it has, and we will be able to take it out. For the backrests, we will need to loosen the screws from their support. At the ends, there are also some hidden screws that we will need to release a clip to see. By lifting part of the upholstery, we will be able to see them. Once we remove these screws, the backrest will be loose. As you already know, I like to wash the seats with a pressure washer even if they aren't very dirty. Well, these don't look dirty, but this part you see here was a small test I did for my Instagram story, and as you can see, it shows quite a bit. Another reason I like to clean with a pressure washer is to thoroughly clean the entire guide area, which as you can see collects a lot of dirt. To clean the seats, as always, we are going to use my brand's degreaser, and for the seats, we dilute it about 10% in an empty spray bottle and fill the rest with water. When we have our mixture ready, we generously spray the entire fabric and the seat guide areas to effectively remove all the dirt. If the seats we need to clean have very extreme dirt, like the seats of the Opel Vectra, we can concentrate the degreaser stronger if we want, and we won't have any problem since it doesn't damage the fabric. When we apply the degreaser all over and let it act with high pressure water, we start cleaning all the fabric and parts of the seat. One thing I think I've never told you when using the pressure washer is to never use the fine spray, as it could damage the fabric of the seat. Years ago, when I started dealing with a stain on a seat that wouldn't come out, I thought of using the fine nozzle. And well, due to the pressure of the machine, it tore the fabric piece, and I had to take it to the upholsterer to reupholster that part. Once the seats are thoroughly cleaned, we let them drain for a good while, and then using a wet vacuum, we remove as much water from the seats as we can, which will help them dry faster and make them cleaner. The seats will take several days to dry, so while we work on the interior, it's important to wash the seats first. Inside the car, we finished clearing out the remaining trash and also took out the mats. From the trunk, where we found a face mask that was so worn out that it turned to dust when we tried to pick it up. Just imagine how much sun the car has been exposed to. We also removed the carpet from the trunk, and since it has oil stains, we are going to clean it with pressure water, just like we did with the seats. We spray degreaser and blast everything with the pressure water. Once we have it clean, we place it upright so that all the water drains out and it dries properly since the interior is completely cleared. Using compressed air, we blow out all the dust from the crevices so that it falls onto the carpets, allowing us to start vacuuming. To clean the carpet, we start by vacuuming everything in general, sucking up what comes out most easily. As you can see, the car doesn't have extremely dirty conditions, but it was a bit neglected, poor thing. This type of carpet is also of low quality and is difficult to clean with just a simple vacuuming, as it tends to trap dirt and the vacuum cleaner cannot remove it all. When we vacuum everything that comes out easily with the tornado gun, we start deep cleaning. The operation of the gun is very simple. With the help of pressurized air, it spins and removes all the dirt trapped in the carpet. And since there is degreaser in the tank, it also removes the stains. What we achieve with this is that everything is loosened and remains on the surface of the carpet, and then with a simple vacuuming, everything can be easily vacuumed up. To clean the rubber parts, we apply degreaser and scrub everything well with a brush to remove mud and stains. And then we use a cloth to wipe everything clean. The process of using the tornado gun while vacuuming is done across the entire carpet until all the dirt is removed. Many of you are wondering why I clean the carpet before the rest of the car, and that after cleaning those parts I will dirty the carpet again. And you are right about that, but the dirt that falls on the carpet is superficial, and with a simple final vacuuming it will be perfect again. On the other hand, if I leave the cleaning of the carpet for last, the amount of dust and dirt I remove will end up back on the clean plastics, and we would have to clean all these plastics again. It is easier to give a quick final vacuum to the carpet than to the plastics. Once we have the carpet clean, we move on to cleaning the door panels, which are mostly upholstered and very easy to clean. We start by cleaning the plastic parts by applying a 10% degreaser and scrubbing everything well with a brush to lift the dirt. And after scrubbing everything, we use a clean cloth to remove all that we have loosened. To remove everything that remains in the gaps and grills that are hard to access, we use pressurized air and they will be perfect. For the rest of the panel, we use the tornado gun to do a wet pass to remove all stains and dust that may be present, followed by a dry pass to ensure everything is well dried, leaving the entire upholstery area perfect. With the door panels clean, we move on to the rest of the plastics in the car. The handbrake cover was completely torn, which was very common in Opel cars of this generation, so we removed it to replace it later. The one for the gear shift would probably be the same as this one, but they put in a universal. Hi, the handbrake area has the most grime of the whole car, but this is more common than you think. Just take a look at your car the next time you get in. All the parts of the car that are touched by hands are the first to get dirty, especially in summer due to sweat. And if they are cars used for dirty work, then even more so. But this is no excuse for driving a dirty car. A touch-up now and then will show that the car is cared for, no matter how much it is used for work. To clean these parts here, as you can see, we use the same process as for everything else, and even though they have different shapes or are different pieces, the dirt is the same and is removed in practically the same way. Now that the plastics are clean, we move on to cleaning the seat belts. This time we will only clean the driver's seat belt using the usual method, as the others can be cleaned with a bit of degreaser and a cloth, which is more than sufficient. The way I like to clean them when they are very dirty is to put them in a bucket with water and add a little degreaser, then let them soak for a good while so that the dirt comes off well, and afterwards rinse them and dry with a cloth, and this way they turn out perfect. There was a part of the car that I should have cleaned first, but I overlooked it, which are the frames of the car that had quite a bit of mud from all the times it must have rained on the car and the amount of dirt it collected from being abandoned. And another thing I hadn't even noticed was that there were several wasp nests in the trunk. Luckily, they didn't have any wasps. For all this dry mud, I could only think of scraping off the thick parts a bit and using the vacuum cleaner to remove everything that comes off easily. And to use the vacuum cleaner to shoot at it just in case there are any hidden spots. Since there was still quite a bit of mud and it was difficult to remove the rubber, the best option was to take it out and put it in a bucket of water so that everything could soften well and be removed easily. While we leave the rubber in the bucket, we apply degreaser to the metal part of the car and use a brush to remove everything that is stuck. Then, with a spray bottle filled with clean water, we rinse everything and dry it with a cloth, ensuring that no dirt falls inside and everything looks perfect. After cleaning this part, to remove the mud from the rubber, we use a brush to scrub until everything is gone, and then we let it drain well before placing it back in the car, and we would have this part here clean. With the remaining door frames of the car, we have the same dirt problem, so we perform the same type of cleaning. We apply degreaser, scrub with a brush, use a paintbrush, and rinse with a sprayer and water. We already have the entire interior cleaned to 100%. Now we just need to apply the dashboard air freshener to restore the shine to all the plastics and protect them. To apply it, we do it as always. We put a small amount on the applicator and apply it to all the plastics we want to treat. A small amount of this should be used since our cello gel is quite effective, and we will need to use a cloth to remove the excess product afterwards. In the end, putting more product on the sponge is just wasting it. When we apply it all over the car and let it dry for a good while, we take a clean, dry cloth and wipe it over all the plastics where we applied the brightener to remove the excess and leave a more natural shine. Now it's time to work on the handbrake upholstery, which is super easy to do. The first thing we need to do is remove the old fabric from the plastic support without tearing it, as we need it as a pattern. To make the fabric new, once it is disassembled, we will need to unpick the seams it has, which in this case are 2. When we have everything unstitched, we will place the old fabric on top of the new one and mark it. After marking it, we will cut it out and then we will just need to sew it. Since I know you really like the topic of upholstery, I'm going to prepare a unique video on the upholstery of the motorcycle seat to show you in detail what I'm going to do. Once we have our piece sewn, we just need to turn it inside out and staple it back onto the plastic piece, and then we can reassemble it in the car. As you can see, the stitching on the gear shift is in red, and we could have done the same for the handbrake, but it wasn't something I liked very much, so in the end I decided on black, which looked more interesting. When the seats are dry, we can reassemble them in the car, but you must ensure that they are 100% dry, as any remaining moisture will cause them to smell, and it will be difficult to remove later. If after leaving them for several days we notice that the sponge is still damp, we can take it out into the sun to dry completely. I washed the rubber mats that the car had, but since one was broken and they had paint on them, I decided to get some new universal carpet mats that would look nicer. After all the work we've put into the interior, it was going to be a detail that would look better. Now that we have the interior ready, we move on to the engine, which we are going to wash thoroughly and then perform maintenance on the engine part. Since it has never been washed and has been sitting for 3 years, there is a considerable amount of dust and cobwebs. To clean an engine like this one that is so dirty, we apply the pure degreaser directly to all the parts we want to clean of the engine, which is practically the entire engine because nothing is left out. As always, we let it sit for a while to take effect on the dirt, and with high pressure water we start to remove all the grease and dust. Here you need to be careful, as you shouldn't apply too much pressure in areas where the connectors are located, but as I always say, I have never had any problems washing engines. That said, with modern cars, it's something I wouldn't risk because they are so full of sensors and so many gadgets that have been added lately, that I believe we could really mess things up with modern cars. My recommendation for modern cars is to avoid getting them as dirty as this one, and to have a cleaning maintenance routine from time to time using compressed air, wiping with a cloth and a brush, applying a bit of degreaser with a brush or cloth, and doing a gentle cleaning to keep it clean and not reach these extremes. Once we have the engine thoroughly cleaned, we dry all the important parts with compressed air, such as connector parts and wiring. Now that we have the engine clean, let's do the maintenance. If you remember, we were starting the car with a portable starter, and well, here in the workshop I have been starting it the same way because its battery is dead and I can't get it to take a charge, so we are going to change it for a charged one that I had here in the workshop. Once the battery is changed, we take the car to the lift to perform the oil change. I imagine that 99% of you watching me know how to change the oil, but since there will be 1% who don't know, I will explain it. The first thing is to let the car warm up well so that the oil reaches temperature and is easier to drain. Once the car is warm, we remove the oil screw and let it drain well. To put the screw back, we change the washer and use a new copper washer so that the screw fits well and does not leak oil. Once we have drained the oil from the engine, it's time to remove the filter, which in this car is very well located and easy to change. However, someone had tightened it so hard that I had to wrench it off, and filters shouldn't be tightened that much. When we are going to put on the new filter, we apply a little oil to the gasket so that it doesn't dry out and seals properly, and we tighten it by hand as much as we can. It should not be tightened with a wrench or anything, as it will tighten more when it heats up. Once we have installed the filter, we lower the car back down from the lift and add oil until it reaches the proper level, until it shows approximately the right amount of oil. Then we will need to start the car. When we start the car, the new filter we installed will fill with oil, the ducts, the pump, and then the level will drop, and we will need to check the level again. To check the level again, we look at how it has settled and leave it as close to the maximum as possible. And with this, we will have changed the oil and the car filter. The air filter, when I went to the parts store to buy the filter and the oil, well, I didn't have air for the air filter. And anyway, the filter isn't too bad, so we took it out of the car and blew it a little. In any case, I will change it later. And I also wanted to change the antifreeze, but I got a bit caught up and didn't take the time to do it. Now we are going to repair the only issue I have found with the car, which is that the ABS light is on, and I imagine that many of you have seen it when you started the car for the first time. This is usually a common problem with these uppers, but just to be sure, we are going to run the diagnosis to see what comes up. On this occasion, we are going to use this new diagnosis that I had for the workshop to see how it performs, which hasn't been tested yet and I still don't know how it works. The Vestra has the OBD port on the cover located in front of the handbrake, and simply connecting the diagnostic connector will turn it on. Now we just have to select the diagnosis, look for the brand of our car, enter the year, and the model will appear. Once we have our car, we will check all the modules of the car, and here is the first problem. The ABS module tried to read in several ways, but none of them worked because there was no response from the ABS module. I had several faults with the central locking module, and by doing the test, I erased the errors and removed them without any problem. One of them was that it did not detect the key fob, and the other two lock problems could be due to a dead battery. In that case, you should replace the battery and try to synchronize it to see if it works. To repair the ABS module that is in the engine, we need to remove it from the car. The way to fix the fault is to rework a solder joint of some internal relays that are usually the ones that fail, as they tend to come loose when they heat up, which causes the error. The solution is very simple. The problem is that the module is completely sealed and does not have any screws to disassemble it to access the part where we need to do the soldering, so we have to make a cover for it. To avoid complicating things too much with the soldering iron, I made a small opening to access the box and reach the chip to touch up the soldering on the relay pins. Well, there were two that I knew were relays, and the other one I didn't know what it was. But I resoldered all the large joints that came from the other side of the board with a bit of solder. Once we have reviewed all the welds, we need to cover the box again and seal it very well to prevent moisture from entering, as this part is in the engine. So, using a good silicone, apply a nice bead and reseal the cover. And well, to let it dry properly before installing it in the car, put some weight on it so that it dries and fits well and is ready. Once we have the module repaired, we install it in the car and perform a test to see if the ABS light goes off. As you can see, when we start the car, this light disappears, so the problem is solved. Since we no longer need to touch the engine, we will apply rubber and tire dressing to all the plastics and hoses. On the flatter and more accessible areas, we apply it with the applicator, and in the areas where we cannot access, we apply the same cleaner diluted to 10% in those parts. And just like we did with the dashboards, when we let it dry a bit with a cloth, we remove the rest of the product, leaving a more natural shine and spreading it better. And finally, we have the engine 100% clean, and we can finally move on to the body, the last part of the car. The body part, although it may not seem like it, is very dirty, especially the area around the wheels and the wheel wells. To clean those areas well, we are going to raise the car on jack stands and remove the 4 wheels, allowing us to perform a deeper cleaning in all these parts. As I mentioned before, the exterior is dirtier than it looks, and the proof is what is underneath the hubcaps, where there is an ecosystem. Now they have gone inside them. Once we have the 4 wheels removed, we will start by doing a good pre-wash in the wheel wells. We apply the pure degreaser, and using the pressure washer with the rotating fine spray nozzle, we clean everything thoroughly and remove all the dirt and grime from the wheel wells. Once we have done the pre-wash in the wheel wells, we are now going to do it on the body, which as you can see is also quite dirty. For the pre-wash, as you already know, we have the pin body shampoo, which can be applied with a foam lance from the pressure washer or with manual foam sprayers. However, this time we are going to use a new toy that I bought, which is like the manual foam applicator but with a larger tank and a battery-powered compressor so that we don't have to apply pressure by hand. This comes with several nozzles depending on the type of foam we want to spray, from denser to more liquid, and its operation is very simple. The compressor comes with a nozzle like that of a bicycle pump, and in the sprayer we have the valve as if it were for the bicycle wheel. All we have to do is place the compressor with a Velcro strap attached to the machine, connect the valve, connect the battery, and then prepare the pin body shampoo. In the tank we put a certain amount, I don't know, a little more or less, maybe about 20% like this, and the rest should be filled with water up to the level. You can't exceed the maximum because otherwise there wouldn't be enough air pressure. Once we have it loaded, we start the compressor and let the pressure build up. At first, when it is empty and without any air pressure, it takes a little while, but after a few minutes when it charges and stops, we can use it. The nozzle I have installed is the one that produces the densest foam and is the most recommended for washing, as we want the foam to stick to the body and lift the dirt. The machine's tank has a capacity of 6 liters, and with those 6 liters, it can perfectly fill 3 cars with foam and ham. We have used about 20% of the bottle, which is around 150 ml of product for 6 liters of water, so the performance of the machine is great. If you like it, you can find it available on the CXOM website. When we do the pre-wash on the car, what we do is remove all the dirt that is stuck to it, such as bird droppings, mud, or anything else that may have adhered, like tree resin, anything so that when we scrub the car during a deeper wash, we can drag all that dirt away. Now that we have done the pre-wash, we are going to apply the pin body shampoo to perform the hand wash. We will apply it directly with the foam lance from the pressure washer onto the body, which saves us from having to use 2 buckets of water, one with the product and another for rinsing the mitt. Once we have applied the soap, we use the wet mitt to scrub the car, rinsing the mitt from time to time to remove any dirt that sticks to it, thus avoiding scratching the car, which is already super scratched. But really, we have to do it this way to avoid scratching it more than it already is. If the car's paint is in good condition, it is advisable to have 2 containers, one with the shampoo and the other for rinsing, and to keep wetting your hand for the shampoo while we float the body, rinsing it. But well, I did it this way because it's quite a bit faster, and it's a car that isn't worth complicating too much when it comes to the body since it's super scratched. Once we've scrubbed all the soap, we rinse the car again and that's it. Once rinsed, we proceed to dry it with the squeegee to remove as much water as possible, and then we finish drying the entire body with a microfiber towel, removing all the water droplets from the surfaces, the windows, the seams, and everything else, leaving the car completely dry. The last step for the body is the wheels, which, as you can see, look quite shabby. The first thing we are going to do is remove all the dirt from the wheel and the tire. To do this, as always, we apply pure degreaser to both sides of the wheel and let it sit for a good while. When we have let it sit for a good while, we use a pressure washer to remove all the dirt. If you look closely, the water on the ground comes out completely black, and that's because the dirt on these wheels is extremely excessive. When the wheels are dry, we will sand them a bit more and remove the rusted parts. To remove this rust, we will use some sandpaper to get rid of the bulk, and then we will apply the rust converter a couple of times until the rust is fully converted into healthy metal. Once the rust converter has dried, we will cover the area between the wheel and the tire with some pieces of magazine, and we will paint the wheel with a matte or satin black spray. I recommend using satin finish because having a bit of shine will make it more durable and will repel dirt better, as a smoother surface is much cleaner. Once we have painted all 4 wheels and they have dried, we will reassemble them on the car. If you remember, the hubcaps that the car had were in terrible shape, so I got 4 new ones for $20.01. Not very pretty, but better than the ones it had. But I thought about taking the Opel logo from the originals to put on the new hubcaps, so they would look a bit more original or a bit more interesting. The logo on the old hubcaps is held in place with tabs, and to attach the new ones, we will glue them directly, so we will remove these tabs. These logos are chrome plated, but they are so dirty from brake dust after being out in the sun for so long that the chrome color is hardly noticeable. So, with a little strong water, we clean them and restore their color. Once the logo is clean, we apply a bit of glue and stick it well centered on the hubcap. And well, it still remains an ugly hubcap, but with the detail of the logo. We just need to mount it on the car. And to finish the wheel part, we are going to apply the rubber dressing to the tire, and we will spray the same product diluted to 10% on the wheel arches. On one of the doors there was a small scratch and a rust stain had appeared, so taking advantage of having some rust remover on hand, we cleaned the rust with a cloth and then applied a little rust converter to protect it and prevent the stain from coming back. To give a bit of protection to the body after washing, we are going to apply wax with the tiler, so the wash will last longer, as the wax repels dirt more effectively and provides a bit of extra protection and shine. And finally, to complete the work on this car, we are going to clean the windows with the all-purpose screen and glass cleaner. To use it, we apply glass cleaner, and with one side of the paper we remove all the dirt, and with the other side we dry it. I'll leave you with a before and after, and if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.